welcome back. This is the Book Mavens channel. I'm Amanda, and I am reviewing today The Librarian Spy by Madeline Martin. It's a new release. I had pre-ordered it thanks to an ad that Rachel sent me, and I took it on an airplane trip recently, and overall, thoroughly enjoyed it. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. So basically, it's a two-person perspective. It flips back and forth between two characters. Ava, who is an American librarian who gets sent to Portugal, and Elaine, who is a French woman who finds herself involved with the French resistance. So it flips back and forth between their two perspectives, and the connecting factor is that they are both connected through a resistance paper. So Portugal was neutral during World War II, and so there was many both Allied and Axis publications available within Portugal, and so the U.S. sent librarians to go over to Portugal to gather as much printed and published material as they could, and then they would microfilm it and send it back to the States in the hopes that they would be able to glean some intelligence from it. Elaine finds herself connected in helping to publish a underground newspaper under Nazi occupation while living in France. And so that is the connecting factor between the two, is that Ava is gathering those papers and sending them back to the States and reading them, and Elaine is part of publishing those papers. So that's the connection between the two. So things I really liked about the book. I think this is a lesser covered part of the World War II experience. The ideas or the ways in which these neutral countries like Portugal operated, the ways in which you could have both German and American and British spies and personnel in the same place interacting with each other in a way that wasn't combat related, or I mean, it is combat related, but you know what I mean. They're not like actively fighting in the streets. I really liked that. I thought the research was overall well done on that element and the way that narrative was put into play. And it is a heart-rendering story. I mean, I like that they didn't, Martin doesn't really sugarcoat some of the atrocities and a lot of the fear and uncertainty. I think she did a really good job of portraying. Ava deals with a lot of guilt and throughout the story, and dealing with the privilege of her position. Like, she is an American in a neutral country. She has access to a lot more resources. She's not kind of suffering under the same rations that a lot of other Allied countries are. And she kind of struggles with that, and her inability to, thanks buddy, her inability to help all of the refugees that she's finding and coming across, because she's based in the embassy. So a lot of the refugees from these occupied countries are coming through, and she's getting to know some of them, and she's really struggling. She really struggles with her own privilege in that scenario. And I thought Martin did a really great job of portraying that. And with Elaine, kind of on the French resistance side, I think she did a good job of describing how you continue to operate despite all this fear and the almost numbness sometimes to the level of tragedy and loss that you can experience. And I thought she did a really good job with that. And the story was really compelling. Don't mind him just having a bath back there. Things I didn't love. I will admit that there were times when the narrative was convenient, or the emotions or the way things were done. There were moments where kind of a modern sensibility and of the events kind of shone through. So there were moments where, you know, it reads like someone who is looking back on these events and kind of putting their kind of the modern interpretation on it in places. Not often, but enough that I noticed. And and I didn't love that part, but honestly, it didn't like affect the overall story. I thought there were some nice twists and surprises. I mean, there were some expected things, obviously, and then things that were unexpected. So overall, I would definitely say if you are interested in fiction from this period, it's a good story. It is, you learn about an element of the World War II experience that you didn't, that you maybe don't necessarily get exposed to. And I liked the everyday peopleness of it. Most of the characters are, I mean, she was a librarian, and she gets asked over. It was not a, there are some really intense emotional moments, but I wouldn't call it, it wasn't overwhelming. Like, it didn't put me in a funk or reach my throat. There were some really hard moments to read, and a couple places where I had to kind of pause and kind of, move through it. But there, overall, I would say it's an excellent book. So it's a new release, The Librarian Spy. Give it a try. See you next time.